What's up, you guys? Today we have Dr. Jesus Tafoya, who is a physician here in Las Vegas, New Mexico, and he's doing a whole lot to help out our community. And so yeah, we're just gonna ask him a few questions and kind of just pick his brain, and I hope you guys enjoy this. So wouldn't you mind just telling us like a little bit about like your story and just how like you kind of got interested in like medicine, and kind of what influenced you to be like a doctor, and basically just all that.
Okay, so I've always wanted to be a doctor. Since I was a kid, there's a video of me, like a family home video, and they're asking me like what I want to do when I grow up, and I said I was going to be Dr. Seuss. And so at the time I didn't understand the concept of PhD versus MD, and Dr. Seuss books were great. So and that was my nickname, Seuss. So it's kind of just always been there. I had a lot of exposure to the medical field at a young age just because of family members being sick. I had several family members in nursing homes, and so that definitely exposed me quite a bit to just seeing people suffering and just kind of needing a little helping hand. And I always felt drawn to that. And so one of the things they ask you when you're applying to med school is, why do you want to be a doctor? And the answer is like, oh, because I like caring for people, or I like taking care of people. And their answer to that is, you could do that in many fields. Why medicine? And that stops a lot of people in their tracks because they don't know how to respond to that. And again, I did because I had already kind of had that experience, and so I knew, how I felt, and it came off as a natural answer. But to kids applying to med school, I'd ask them to ask themselves that, what exactly. Why do you need to go the doctor avenue? And it's a good question because it's not a very easy field to go into. It's a tough road, and so if you just want to help people and that's all you need, there's other things you can do that are a lot easier. So really ask yourself, why do you want to be a physician? And so for me, I couldn't really see myself doing anything else. Growing up, sciences were always big for me. I focused quite a bit on biology, chemistries. And so by the time I got to high school, I full force knew what I wanted to do. Anatomy was definitely my favorite class. And I did okay in high school, but I definitely didn't perform to my best potential. I was having fun, but I knew what I wanted to do. And so as soon as I finished high school, which I graduated from West Las Vegas High School, and I just told myself, now it's time to crack down. College is here. You got to take care of business. Can you still have fun in college? Of course you can, but responsibly. You got to figure out what are days that I can go out and have fun, and what are days that I should probably stay in and focus on my studies. And I think finding that balance is really important. I've seen a lot of people burn out in undergrad because they focus so much on the school that they didn't allow themselves to have a life. And you don't want to make that mistake either. You don't get these years back. And so I think I found a very good balance between the two. And so I went to New Mexico Highlands University, and they've had a few people get into med school over the years, but there had been kind of a drought where we really hadn't had anyone. And so I decided I was going to break the ice. I was going to be the first one to get in. And so I had some professors really take me under their wing and kind of give me the blueprint of what it takes to get into medical school. And so I just started working hard, following their advice, and I was able to push through. And so I ended up with a really good GPA. My MCAT score wasn't as good as I wanted it to be, but it was good enough to get in, thank God. And so I applied, and I was a first round acceptance, and so that's difficult to do. My advice that I give to students interested is, don't get discouraged if you don't get in on your first application. It's they say it's your first application, you have a chance of getting in, but it's not super high. Second application, that chance is going to go up. Third application is your best chance of getting into med school. If you don't get in by your third application, you should be looking at other career options. The chances just drop dramatically after the third application. And so what I tell people is, don't take the MCAT till you're ready, and don't apply to med school till you're ready. If you know that you don't have a solid MCAT score, you know that you're not going to have the volunteer work, the research experience, if you're not going to be competitive, don't shoot yourself in the foot. You're not giving yourself a fair chance at getting in. And so I had a couple of classmates that were in their 50s. So it's never too late. You can always go to med school. And so that's the encouragement I give people is, don't put yourself in a situation where you're gonna it's going into battle without a sword or something, you know, and so it's you're not at your best.
Right.
You know, beef up your application and then make your application. So I did go to UNM Medical School, which is, you know, of course, the only medical school we had in the state at the time. Now we have a DO program down in Las Cruces, and so I'm really excited about that because we need more physicians out here. More specifically, we need more primary care doctors out here. And so if you look at a lot of the rural communities in New Mexico, there's very few MDs left. And the few MDs that we do have, most of them are retiring. And so we have nurse pracs and PAs, which thank God for them, but we need more MDs out there. And so I really feel the need to address that issue for my community and for other communities around here as well.
Right.
And so that's been a big thing that I want to push for in returning to New Mexico.
Right.
And so speaking of that, so I finished med school at UNM, and then I left the state to Texas Tech University at Lubbock, Texas. And I was there for 3 years for residency and family practice. And as soon as I finished up there, I came right back home. And so my initial reason for wanting to go into medicine was because I knew about this, you know, lack of healthcare in the rural communities. I knew by the time I'd be finishing up, a lot of these guys that had been servicing our community for 30 years were probably going to be retiring.
Right.
And so when I went to Texas, I really fell in love with the place, though, and the people were great. I really liked being at the university setting. So it was hard. It was hard to kind of just leave it and come back, but I knew what my reasoning was in the first place, and I never really lost sight of that.
Right.
And so moving back here, it was a little tough. Getting used to the small town again. Lubbock's not huge or anything, but you know, it's got all the amenities of a big city.
Right.
And then just, you know, kind of being brought back by the people. And so when you live in a small community, you know, they're very close, and they kind of stick together, and sometimes outsiders have a little bit of time kind of breaking that barrier. And what a weird experience for me was that I almost felt like I had to break that barrier. I almost felt like by some of the population that I was viewed as an outsider. And so that was kind of weird. I was not expecting that. But once they saw that I was here to serve the community and my intentions were good, you know, they really welcomed me, you know, with just a big open arm, you know. And so communities really embraced me, and you know, I work a lot with our government, our mayor, Louis Trujillo. He's really had me involved in a lot of this stuff, especially with the whole COVID-19 pandemic.
Right.
And so I've kind of been like the unofficial doctor for the city for that, and it's been a neat experience. And you know, these are things I don't get paid money for. It's just on my own time, and it's enjoyable. It's just knowing that you're really helping people.
Yeah, for sure.
And so when I came back here, I worked for Alta Vista Hospital for 4 months. I decided it just wasn't the right job situation for me. And so my boss, who lives in Santa Rosa, New Mexico, owns a company called Sunrise Medical Group. And they had been wanting to expand to Las Vegas. And so they opened an office here for me. And now we've staffed it with other nurse pracs and PAs who work under me. And it's been great. It's, you know, we've really been able to see a huge portion of the population in Las Vegas. And not only that, we have clinics in Raton, Tucumcari, Santa Rosa. And so we've kind of really covered most of the northeast corner of the state. And there are plans for continued expansion. And that's exactly what we're needing in this state is, you know, somebody reaching in a little further to kind of get out into these communities and provide services that people were driving 2 hours, you know, even an hour is kind of tough for some people, just to get medical care and primary care at that, not a specialist. And so that's a big problem. And so that some people can't make the trip, and so they don't get health care.
Right.
And so to be able to provide that for them has been huge.
Right, for sure.
And so that's what I'm currently doing now. I got the family practice that we have going here. I work at the emergency room at Guadalupe County Hospital, and where Santa Rosa is. And then I'm the medical director at one of the nursing homes here in Las Vegas, Vida Encantada Nursing Home. And I'm going to be a medical director for a hospice company probably by December. They're planning to expand out this way. And so just kind of using myself where I can help people, but without spreading myself too thin.
Right.
And so believe me, when you have an MD after your name, there's job offers everywhere. Everybody needs a medical director for something or another. But you have to understand that if you spread yourself too thin, you're going to burn out, and then you're good to nobody. You know, not only can you not do all these side gigs you were trying to do, your main job becomes affected. and your quality of care drops, and that's the last thing you want to do. So you got to be really smart in balancing everything, and then of course you have your family life and your own happiness. And again, if those things aren't going well, it's going to be reflected in your work.
Right.
So you got to find that balance.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you. Yeah. So, like, what kind of future do you see for medicine coming up? Like, with all this whole COVID-19 pandemic, and like, what future do you see happening in medicine within like the next 10 years?
And so that's really going to be dependent on the government, because right now it's, medical experts are kind of trying to guide us through everything and recommending that we do more of this, less of that. And the thing is, there's so much unknown right now that the recommendations change pretty frequently. And it's confusing for some people and scary at the same time, because, what is the right answer? Well, we don't know a lot. But one of the huge things that the government approved almost immediately, which was great for medicine, was for telehealth. And so telehealth has been around for a while. It's not a new concept, but the compensation for a telehealth visit is much lower than seeing somebody in the clinic. And so if you have a telehealth visit, we're not going to get paid as much money from the insurance companies. And so most physicians don't want to do a telehealth visit, because if they were to fill up their day with these telehealth visits, the compensation is not going to be enough to keep your door open. We got a lot of overhead to pay for.
Right.
So with them passing that, it allowed us to keep operating as a clinic without having to put our patients or ourselves at risk for the getting the COVID virus.
Right.
And so that really changed everything. And it's kind of one of those things where once the floodgate opens, there's kind of no going back. And so I predict that telehealth is going to really start playing a huge role in what we do. And so for a lot of my patients, I don't need them in the clinic. Everything that I can do, I can pretty much do it over the phone. Then there's those patients where I really need to do a physical exam. It's really important. And so for them, I really encourage them to come in, and we take the precautions needed to protect them. And then for other people, we have labs that we need to check here in clinic. And so for those visits, it makes sense to come in.
Right.
And so, and the thing is too, is, we've really opened our eyes with this COVID pandemic to things that we should have probably already been practicing before COVID. And so, we have influenza, so the patients that are at highest risk for that, maybe they shouldn't be in our office all winter long during the peak of flu season. And so a lot of the stuff that we're really pushing here for the pandemic a lot of it's common sense. And again, there are things we should have already been doing. And so what I'm hoping is that the practices that we're using now will not only help us get COVID under control at some point, but also other viruses that tend to spread quite a bit.
Right. Sure.
So it's exciting to see what's going to happen with everything.
Yeah, I bet. I know. I can just imagine how everything could just like change like that. But yeah, so like, what kind of advice would you have for like pre-meds who are pursuing to be a doctor, and like, or even just a healthcare field in general?
And so again, and you just brought up a good point there, the healthcare field in general. And so the biggest question I tell people to ask themselves is, why do you want to be a doctor? And I'll face the audience here, for those of you that are interested in medical school or any field, physician assistant, nurse prac, what's the real reasoning that you want to do this? Because money should not be the reason. There are plenty of other fields that you can make good money in. And we get out with a lot of debt in most cases. It's I had about $250,000 in debt coming out of medical school, and by the way, I had zero debt from undergrad. And so there are some kids who have a huge amount of debt from undergrad, especially if you went to a big university. And so think about the money aspect of it. And is there potential to get paid really well? Absolutely. Like for most primary care doctors, it's not as much money as you think it is. For those that work really hard or take on side jobs and are really good at managing their money and investments, they can do really well. So yes, money is there, but not all doctors make a lot of money, just like not all lawyers make a lot of money. And so you got to go into it for the right reasons. The other thing is, I've talked to several physicians who did go into it for the money. First of all, their burnout rates are super high. Their satisfaction with their life, with their job, is very low. It's some of the lowest out there, actually. And so my encouragement to you guys is make sure you guys actually want this. Make sure this is something that you really want to do. Well, how are you gonna know that? You haven't been to medical school yet. You haven't become a doctor yet. So what would you do to kind of help you decide, is this for me or not?
So I've asked myself that question actually quite a bit, because for a while I wasn't sure. Like, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I was like, I have this scholarship to pursue medicine, but am I just pursuing it just to be, just because I'm part of this, or because I actually want it? And so what I found out was, I realized that I am an entrepreneur at heart, and that's what I love doing. That's why I'm doing these videos. That's why I want to be able to revolutionize something. That's just something that I've always just dreamed of doing. And so I would consider myself to be an entrepreneur first, and I would want to pursue medicine second. And no one else, like, in medicine, really, like, there's a handful of doctors or nurses who are, trying to revolutionize medicine. And well, there's a lot of pawns in medicine, I feel like. And I feel like you're a great example of someone who's trying to revolutionize medicine in their own community, and that's something that I want to do, and I want to help as many people as possible without having to worry about just doing little stuff. Like, I want to be able to help a lot of people, and I just feel like it's something that I'm passionate about. Like you said, it's something that I've always imagined myself doing, but I was unsure as to what reason it was that I was pursuing it. It was never for the money while I was pursuing it, because there's a million ways to make a lot of money.
Exactly.
Like there's stock market, real estate, tons of ways. But it's, I want to be able to give back to the people who've gave a lot to me. And, I want to be able to use my talents in ways that I could help a lot of people.
Great. And so what's something you can do to kind of get a taste of it and see if this is something for you?
I feel like
go shadow a doctor.
Yeah.
That's what you do. You go spend time around the medical environment. You spend time in the clinic setting. You spend time in the hospital setting. If you're lucky enough to have a surgeon that's willing to let you shadow them, getting in the operating room is huge. And so that was actually one of my first shadowing experiences. Every intention I had when I went into medicine originally was actually to be a surgeon. I love surgery, but the lifestyle just didn't really fit what I wanted it to be. For general surgery, surgical subspecialties, absolutely, I would have loved to have done that. And I did apply for urology. That's the field that I was really interested in, but it's really competitive. I mean, your step one board exam, you take 3 board exams to become an officially licensed certified doctor. The very first one determines the type of doctor you can be. You don't do very well on that one, you're very limited in your choices. If you do pretty well but not top, well, you still have quite a bit of options, but those really highly desired residencies that you want or fellowships, they're probably out of the question. And so you got to be realistic with those things. And so, where I scored on my step 1 board exam, I had some doors open. I could have done general surgery. There was a chance for urology and orthopedic surgery, but it wasn't as good as, my counterparts that probably had a higher score. But OBGYN, family medicine, I don't know, a few other fields, but, kind of the more mid-tier to low-tier, jobs. But I'll tell you guys right now, again, if you got drive like this young man, if you got drive like myself, believe me, where there's a will, there's a way. If you want to make money, you can do it in any of the above. It just takes learning stuff outside of medicine. And so for most residency programs, they're going to teach you how to be a doctor, and that's it. I was fortunate enough to go to a residency program at Texas Tech where my mentors, they didn't just teach me how to practice medicine. They taught me how to invest money, how to run a clinic, how to deal with the business aspect of it. And because of that, I'm like a sponge. I absorb everything. And so, coming out of residency, I'm 3 years out as of last month, actually. And so, the kind of money that I'm able to make as a family practice physician, you generally don't see family docs making that kind of money until they're in their 50s. And so they got their feet well established, planted in they got themselves well established. They got their feet planted in the ground. and they're stable. That's when you see that kind of money flow coming in. And because of the advice I was given and the fact that I actually put it to use, I've been able to do that in a very short amount of time. Now, can I maintain it? I sure hope so. I'll be working hard to do that. But it's just being innovative and coming up with ideas. YouTube is a huge thing. I have intentions of starting my own YouTube channel. I've been talking about it for a few months now, but I've just been too busy to kind of get it off the ground. And so I had my first, big numbers of people that I'm reaching with my Facebook page. And so the COVID-19 pandemic, people just were searching for answers. They didn't know who to turn to. And so I started making videos to help address the public. And initially my goal was to reach the people of Las Vegas, New Mexico, but I've actually reached people all over the United States now. Majority of them within New Mexico, but I have people who watch my videos from Detroit, Michigan, Los Angeles, California, San Diego. I've gotten to actually meet some people virtually that were watching my videos. It was pretty cool. And so in one of my videos actually led to a conversation with the governor and kind of helping aid our state in the reopening process. And so it made a big splash. And so I really would like to run with that and not only use it for the whole COVID pandemic, but my biggest thing is, as a primary care physician, preventative medicine is huge. And so I really want to be able to reach the people and kind of give them some tips and pointers. How can I take care of myself so that I don't develop diabetes, so that I am making sure I don't have breast cancer, colon cancer. If we spend more of our time up front, we're going to spend much less money down the road for specialists, surgeries, and things that could have been avoided. And so that's really my big passion, is kind of treating the masses just like you were talking about. And so I'll tell you, one huge place for that is public health. And so public health is a huge thing. I will warn you, you're going to make a lot less money doing that. But if your goal is to make a big impact on the population, public health is the way to go. Now, can you run private practice and do a clinic and do public health on top of that? Well, yeah, you're looking at them. I'm doing it right now. And so a lot of the public health efforts that I'm actually making, I'm not getting paid for them, though. I'm just doing them because it's the right thing to do. And luckily, my job pays me enough that I don't feel the need to demand money for these things. These are things I can just do. And it's been great, because that is me truly giving back to a community. And like I tell people, if I can sit with one patient in a room and help that one patient out, it means the world to me. But what if I can reach 1,000 patients? That's, you're saving a lot more lives. And so my goal has always been to reach the masses. And so, but I never want to lose the personal relationships with my individual patients. So guess what? I'm going to do a balance of the two and be able to do a clinic like this, but also be able to address the public as a whole and give them an opportunity to take care of themselves. And so one of the largest problems we have in the United States is access to health care. Not everybody's insured. For a lot of people, yes, they do qualify for Medicaid. For some people, they don't qualify for Medicaid. They have a job, they make money, but it's not enough to really afford the health insurance, but it's too much to qualify for Medicaid. They're stuck in a really bad spot. And so if I can help give them advice to keep themselves healthy and prevent themselves from getting chronic disease, that's going to be a huge impact on their life. And so that's always been a huge passion of mine.
That's great. Well, thank you. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with the audience?
And so, for kind of addressing the students interested in going to med school, again, put everything you have into it in undergrad. Work, get the GPA that you need. Work hard. Study for your MCAT, please. Do not be crazy like me and just go take the MCAT. I got lucky. I got a score good enough to get in. I absolutely did not study for the MCAT. I could have done so much better. Thank God that UNM took me, but I didn't even bother applying to any other medical school because I knew the MCAT score was on the lower end, so I was going to take it again the following year. Don't do that to yourself. Even if UNM is where you want to go, or whatever school you have your mind set on, don't limit yourself. Give yourself some options, and again, be competitive, because not everyone's as lucky as I was to get in on a first application. The other important thing is research. You need some research experience. There are internships all over the United States. I went to Athens, Georgia, to the University of Georgia, and did genetic research on fruit flies. And no, that's not where my passion was. That's not exactly where my interest was, but it was a great experience and it looked really good on my application. Community service, that's huge. And for people who just have zero interest in community service, ask yourself if medicine is really the right place for you, because it's probably not. You are going to serve your entire life as a public servant. And so if community service is just not interesting to you, again, I'd look for another career. Medicine's probably not the right place for you. And the other thing too is, find other people that have similar interests as you and study with them, get some experience together. Maybe they're shadowing one doctor, you're shadowing another, and then you guys swap. I encourage people to shadow multiple physicians. It's good so you can find the things that you really like that some people do and kind of add them to your bag of tricks that you're going to use when you're a doctor and be able to communicate well with your patients. And also look at the bad stuff they're doing. Look at the stuff that you need to ask yourself, is that, I don't think I want to do that. That seemed kind of rude. There's some doctors out there who could use a little better bedside manner. And so learn from those doctors and learn what you don't want to do with your patients. And so like I tell students who shadow me, I feel like I'm pretty good at what I do, but I also feel like there's areas to improve on all the time. And so as doctors, we should constantly be improving. We should always be moving forward, getting better as the days go on. And unfortunately, we have too many doctors who, once they finish residency, the learning stops there.
Right.
And you should not be a physician if that's what you're looking for. Being a physician, just like being a teacher and some other professions out there, it's a lifelong learning. We are constantly learning new things. Medicine changes. There are several things that I learned just 3 years ago in residency that are obsolete now. It's no longer the right answer. And it's up to us to be able to do that lifelong learning. We call it continuing medical education. And so it's up to you to do that. There's not really somebody pushing you to do this. It's got to be self-driven. So be ready for a career in that. And I'll tell you, for those of you who realize this is the career for you, who do have a passion for it, it's amazing. It's a beautiful career. I had several doctors try and discourage me from even going into this career. And again, it's because they probably shouldn't have done it for them. For me, I love my job almost every single day. When I start getting a little burnt out like I did a few weeks ago, I finally said, I'm not enjoying work right now. And so guess what? I took a week off and came back refreshed, and here I am loving what I do again. And so that's the biggest advice I give to people is do something you love. If it happens to make great money and gives you some stability in a career, that's amazing. Make sure it's something you love, because if not, you might have a short career because you get burnt out too easy. And so for those of you that are pursuing this dream of becoming a physician, a nurse practitioner, a PA, don't let anybody stop you in your dream. Don't let anybody tell you that you can't do it, that you don't have what it takes. Don't let anybody tell you that because of your race, your ethnicity, that it's probably not a good choice for you, you can't do it. Don't let anyone stop you for any of those reasons. And don't lose yourself when you're going through the training. Keep hold of who you are as a person. If you have a religion that you're very devoted to, don't let medical school change that for you. Don't let certain people within the system change that for you. And never forget where you came from.
All right. Well, you guys heard it. Thank you guys for watching this video, and thank you.
Thanks for having me, and it was a great experience. So.
Yeah, for sure. It was fun. I'll leave a link to Dr. Tafoya's Facebook, and you guys can go follow him. And hopefully, by the time this video comes out, you would have your YouTube page going, and
that'd be great.
Yeah, leave a link on the bottom, and thank you guys for watching, and see you guys in the next one.
Sounds great. Thank you guys.